Some people are not laughing at comedian Dave Chappelle's new comedy special on Netflix. He joked about people who are transgender, rapper Baby, and women. It premiered Tuesday, and since its release, there is a call to have it removed from the streaming platform. David John is the executive director of the National Black Justice Coalition, and it's one of the nation's leading civil rights organizations. And Sampson McCormick is a comedian, an actor, and writer with 2 decades in the business. And he's also joining us with insight this afternoon. Welcome to BNC, and I want to get right to this. Let's start with David. Just talk about the outrage following the special's release, and do you think the comedian went too far?
First, Naja, let me say thank you for allowing us to have this conversation. The most important point I want to make is that Black people are trans, queer, non-binary, and non-conforming too. And when it comes to the stigma associated with homophobia and transphobia, all things that are a result of white supremacy, it is Black, trans, queer, non-binary people who suffer the most. I know that so much of this is about acknowledging that all of us Black people are too easily discardable and disposable. So many people heard our statement, which was really an invitation for critical thinking and responsible action, as us coming for his bag. And for me, what is most important is to underscore that the joke wasn't funny. It's not just about a singular joke, it's about a history of jokes that specifically target trans folks. And for me, what I know is that jokes about trans folks and their genitalia normalize the violence that they experience every single day. This year is on track to being the deadliest year on record for trans folks. The vast majority of victims are Black trans women. And there's not a modicum of the energy that I felt in the last 24 hours after asking for this conversation when members of our community are murdered or otherwise experience violence. And so I want people to understand that it is jokes and the dismissal of our pain as not important, or as us being sensitive, which is really an acknowledgement of us being human, that make it difficult for us to show up in the world, that make it the fact that we have to choose to be visible, to show up in public, or to be safe. And so I really want all Black folks to purport to care about Black folks in the way that I do, to think more critically about things like this.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, Sampson, so what do you say to people who think that they should remove this and that this is essentially silencing art?
Well, I think we all have the agency to decide what it is that we want to watch, and I don't understand why we are turning on his comedy specials if we know he's going to say things about the LGBTQ community. As you stated, I have been a part of our community for a long time and representing our community as a comedian for a long time. So I understand comedy a little bit differently. And people are going to say things about everybody. That's one of the great things about comedy. But now we have a choice. And I say, if you don't like what Dave is saying, then stop watching Dave and start looking at comedians who are going to talk about what you want to talk about. It's simple as that. I don't believe in canceling people.
I think that's an excellent point. We have a choice, and we can show how we feel by supporting or not supporting the artist. But David, this question's for you, because I really think it seems to an extent that comedians have almost been exempt from social responsibility. Okay. So what in this particular situation makes, say, Chappelle's comments different from those of a Richard Pryor or even a Bill Cosby?
I don't think that they're different insofar as we're highlighting moments when jokes mask or otherwise inflict trauma or violence, or make it possible for people to dismiss trauma and violence on particular members of communities. For me, this is noteworthy. And again, we engaged in this space because it's hypocritical at a minimum to acknowledge that Netflix is the same company that also provides access to the documentary Disclosure, which does the work of talking about how white supremacy works by creating jokes about trans people's genitalia and reducing people who have complex and meaningful lives and make meaningful contributions to simply being the butt of jokes. And so I'm happy to always share space with my brother Sampson. I'm a fan of his genius and comedy. I'm also a fan, to be clear, of Dave Chappelle. He is in part important, and we are having this conversation because he's a genius. And I want to just acknowledge that when that genius is lost on jokes that reduce people to their genitalia, and also dismisses the reality that it's not just that Black people are all cis and heterosexual. That has never been true. Conversely, it's not the case that all queer people are white. When those things are lost, especially with someone who is as talented as Dave Chappelle, there is a problem. There, at least, there's an opportunity for us to pause and have the exact conversation we're having now.
And Sampson, I know you mentioned we all have a choice, right? We can choose not to support the artist, but do you think it's time for comedians to sort of scale back their jokes, jokes like that in general? Or is it taking away kind of the meat of the art?
No, I think the great thing about comedy is comedy allows us all to laugh at ourselves. I have been a very openly gay Black comedian for a long time. I was doing that before it was cool. And the reason why I'm able to do what I do today, and the reason why other queer comedians are able to exist, is because we've been able to have the conversation. I believe the thing that will make this most effective is if we continue to embrace the ability to laugh at ourselves no matter who we are. And I think that by doing that, taking ourselves less seriously, we can have more important conversations. And that's the very beautiful thing about comedy.
Yes. You know, some people say that the show is really adding to the divisiveness that's happening in America. So how do you think that these types of things impact society?
I think they create conversations, and instead of getting angry, we need to just keep having conversations with each other. That's the best way to do it. You know, we can't be angry. I think we just need to laugh. Like, don't take yourself so seriously. Laugh. Let's laugh at each other. You know, I'm from Southeast DC, and we grew up poor. Some people grew up, you know, they didn't have things that they needed. They didn't look the best, but we roasted each other, and that's how you learn how to accept yourself, was roast and get roasted. And that helped you to be able to embrace your flaws or what was different about you and go through life more positively.
And David, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. It's not an either or. We should be liberated by the beauty of both and. And for those who found it funny, cool. I find it hard to have processed that in a way that engendered laughter. And let me make a parallel point, because I know that for a lot of people, the queer stuff is just too much to process. In 2003, Dave Chappelle had a skit called Piss on You. And this resulted in R. Kelly becoming the brunt of a joke where most people talked about popularly the fact that he had a pee fetish. What that missed is that at the core of that joke, that skit, was a 14-year-old Black girl, right, who was at the center of the case that was just resolved. And this was years ago. I'm not trying to censor or stop one's ability to invite us to think critically about things that are important. But I do want to acknowledge when that platform is leveraged to blunt more meaningful conversations that we should all be having about ensuring that every member of our community has the ability to laugh, right? Has the ability to come into spaces where they can feel a part of a community and participate in jokes rather than simply being the butt of the joke.
Beautifully put. David Johns and Sampson McCormick, thank you so much for joining us on this very interesting topic and important conversation.